Welcome back. I'm Gary Parr.
And I'm Beth Ellicott.
And you're listening to the midweek version of the Fiber Talk, the twice-weekly podcast for needlework artists. Holy smokes, what a ride.
Yes, Gary's still with us, too. This is great.
There was a moment, I'll tell you. There was a moment where I thought, yeah. No, it was, yeah, I was pretty sick. I was really sick, but, people have been far worse than me, so I had to keep reminding myself it wasn't quite that bad, but at the moment, yeah, not feeling very good. So,
no. And it was worse than a man cold. So,
right,
it was
right, yeah, that's what I'm down to now is just the tail end of just a good old head cold. But all that other stuff that was piled on top of it was not pretty.
No.
So no, let's see. We're recording Monday, and I've now slept entire nights in bed 2 nights. So I'm pretty excited about that. Because up till then, we'd been at the house, 2 weeks, and I think I'd slept in bed 3 nights. The rest of the time had been in a recliner in a remote corner of the house so I don't wake Marg up with coughing constantly. And, 2 nights in a row in bed where I actually stayed in bed was kind of nice.
Yeah, that's all good. Yeah.
Yep. And my voice is a wreck. It'll be a week before that gets back to anything normal. But, oh well. I know it's a good emergency room. I can tell you that at the local hospital. They're very nice people. They do a thorough job, and I did it twice, so I know that they're good.
Because once wasn't enough.
No, you got to take another run at it. Yeah, and that's the thing. Emergency room for something like this, we don't have doctors yet, and the earliest we have a doctor lined up, but the earliest I could get in to see her is in October. So. Oh. So you got no choice but to go to emergency. The first time the emergency was, that was just somebody had to give me something, and it was the only option. The second time it was literally I need to go see somebody, and that's all I had. But nice job. So,
yeah. And thank you for all the people who were giving well wishes too online to you.
Oh yeah. Oh, I can't say how much I appreciate all the prayers and thoughts from everyone. Yes, really do. Yep. Got me through it. Rough. Yep. So, a few more days here with this cold, and then I'll probably be okay.
Yeah.
Couple bike rides coming up to clear out the lungs, and we should be good to go. Yep.
Excellent.
Yep. Tonight, Dima Santina joins us. And if you don't follow Dima Santina on Instagram, you should, because she does amazing work, and so we're going to get to drool over some of that amazing work tonight. Dima was with us several months ago, and then she just does such great work. We just got to have her back. We got to talk about it more. So,
yes, and she's always finishing new things, so it's not like it's
I know
a repeat.
She's always finishing new things.
Finishing new things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like completing actual projects. Yes.
What is this? I don't know what that is.
We'll have to find out what she takes. Is it a drug? Is it is it meditation? What is it she does? Yeah.
No sleep. I don't know.
Yeah, something. Because she works a full-time job, too, and she's always finishing things. Yes.
Yeah.
There's a secret there. So join us tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, for the return of the Stitch Hour. After a little break. Sorry about all the break, too, folks. Just the moving and the sickness just got all overwhelming, and it just had to stop. Something had to stop, and I just couldn't get set up properly, and it just broke down all the way around. So sorry about that. But, you're right, Beth. So many people with prayers and thoughts. Really appreciate it. Emails, posts, everything. Really, really appreciate it. So Dima tonight, and then next week will be the first week in July, and so I expect that we will have a tour with April in Sydney. They have 2 exhibits in July. So I wrote to her. I've not heard back. It always takes longer because when I write to her, it's middle of the night, and when she writes to me, that kind of thing. So we'll get that straightened out. So I don't know if we'll be doing 1 tour or 2 tours in the month of July, or just what we're going to do, but some interesting stuff there in July. So we'll be hearing from from April at least once in July. And then Carrie Noss, who has been so gracious and so flexible through all this, to be canceled out twice. As soon as I know what April's going to do, then we'll schedule Carrie for needle lace and that demonstration. And we'll get that in as soon as possible. And I've thanked her privately, but I thank Carrie publicly for just being flexible. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that one because some friends are doing a Hazel Bloom camp piece, and they're all struggling with it. So they're like, oh, needle lace demonstration. Yes, let us know when that one comes on.
Okay, yep. Well, we'll get it in as soon as we can in July. She was flexible other than the first week in July. So if we can get it the second week, then we'll do it. But, yeah, really appreciate Carrie being flexible there. Through all the things. Marion Lang, you've been cooking right along with Marion Lang, haven't you?
It's a fun little sampler to work on. It's fairly simple. There's the eyelets that I had to rip out a whole letter, but we won't talk about that.
No.
It's fun. It's a fun little stitch, 2 colors, and away you go.
Well, it's a neat looking one. The post that you put up, it's really neat looking. So, so that's wetalkfiber.com/Lang and /Lang kit. We'll get you to Sassy Jack's, and you can pick that up. And yeah, if you follow Beth, you should follow Beth. Why aren't you following Beth? You'll get to see it evolve, and it really is a very nice little sampler.
Very fun.
Yep. So let's see. Sunday, from the Raspberry Rabbits, we'll have Michelle May as our guest. And of course, we have the Joanna Kabanoff Mojo Stitches Take Wing thing is ongoing. The Botany Bay Sampler, all of Spring Hill Sampler from Needle in a Haystack, Botany Bay, Take Wing, those available from Sassy Jack's and others, but from Kim at Sassy Jack's. So all those things are ongoing. And then you keep making noise about painted canvases.
Oh, yes.
Are you okay?
No, I must be nuts. Well, I have a friend who does beautiful painted canvas. She's won awards with ANG National, and she does a fabulous job. And so she'll say, "Here, Beth, I finished this huge canvas, or can you help? What do you think about this, or what do you think about the stitching on that?" And I see them and I think, oh, those are so beautiful. And I just want to try it. I just want to start one. I've done maybe 2 painted canvases, but they've been very small, tiny little things. But I want to do a larger one because, I always like large projects.
Yes.
But it's like, and I have some. It's not like I don't have any in my stash, but I'm afraid to start one of the larger ones because it is a commitment of time.
Yes.
And what if I make a mistake? I start stitching and it comes out a huge mess, and I have this painted. I don't know. There's a huge fear factor in there for me.
Well, in terms of if you make a mistake, needlepoint canvas is much more durable than anything else. So pulling it out is no big deal.
This is true.
Yeah,
you
can pull it out. Yep. Yeah. It's so all right. So you have some in your stash. That raises the immediate question: why aren't you using one of those? Do they no longer speak to you, or?
Well, one of them does, but I think it's the fear factor. One of them I bought, should I say, 2004 when I went to New Mexico for a seminar. And I fell in love with it. And it's some very Southwest-looking lizards. And I've always wanted. I think about it, and I think about, okay, what stitch would I put on that? And I think that's the problem. I think I'm stuck at the point of putting my needle into the canvas and just starting the piece because the fear of making a mistake, and I just have to get over that hump of if you make a mistake, you can rip it out. It is just canvas and thread, and I've got that, and I have the threads, I think it's the fear of making my own stitch guide.
Yeah, I think that we're well established that you have a local needlework shop full of thread in your basement, so this is not
Yes,
an issue. No.
the threads are not an issue. Not threads are not an issue. But I think it's just how to start it. How, do you start on the background or do you start on the lizard that's going to be more forward? I don't know. I've never done a big painted canvas, and that makes a difference. Um, and how do you make that the lizard there's one like on top, I think, of the other. So how do I make that one stand out more than the one behind? And I don't want to do basket weave.
No.
I don't want no.
Well, see, as I
No.
understand it, who was it? Somebody said, pick the item in the scene that your eye goes to every time. That's your one that has to come to the forefront. And so then it's a matter of colors and or stitches that determine whether that is in the forefront or the background. And so it sounds like you have your element, this lizard,
Right.
that needs to be in the forefront. So then you need to decide what stitch and what color, which is painted. So I suppose that's where I struggle. That's where I struggle is do you match the color, or do you do a stitch that covers it so you can do the color you want?
And I would probably use the color that's on the canvas because I do like the colors that are on it.
Okay.
But right, because you need to, if you use a more open stitch, you need to make sure that you don't it matches fairly well. It doesn't have to be an exact match.
Yeah.
Or if it contrasts, it's a good contrasting that you still see the canvas underneath if you're using a more open one.
Right.
And my friend who's done all these needlepoint canvases, she said, "Oh, you ought to beat it." And I'm like, "Oh."
Now, see, yeah. See, if okay, for me, that's the step too far for effectively an initial effort.
Right.
Just stick with thread and stitches.
Right. And I know how to bead. I can do some sort of beading on it, but I couldn't imagine beading the whole thing, or beading even the one because beads are shiny and they're dimensional. So they are going to be the ones that your eye is going to be drawn to that immediately.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I need to do is, and actually I'm thinking about doing it for July, is sticking it on stretcher bars and sitting it out next to me where I stitch.
Yeah.
So I can look at it and think about it more, and then take notes on what strikes me about it, what stitches I see being used, so I can see if they work, because that's the other thing. Are the stitches going to be too big, or what I think would work, will they really work in that space?
Yes.
Because you were talking to the podcast, Melissa and Megan.
Yes.
And I think, it takes a little bit of practice to do that sort of thing, to figure out exactly what stitch will work in what space.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of playing around there. See, that's the thing, is the people who are really good at it, that's just sheer experience. This space, this stitch will work. I can get this expression from this stitch with this color, blah, 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 blah. So, obviously experience. But I think for something like that, it's just doodle cloth time. And you just, maybe even trace over and make a doodle cloth with an outline, and, so you're not stitching on the original. And then just try some different stitches and see which one works in that space for you.
Yes. And what threads too, because that makes a difference. Sometimes you think something's going to work in a space and the thread's going to work, and you're like, oh, that just, nah.
Yeah.
So, and I think I've got to get over the hump of like, you're not ruining anything. This is a learning process. If it doesn't come out fabulous, nothing's fabulous the first time you stitch something. It's the first time. It's just a matter of playing.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah,
to
I
play.
think you
Yeah,
really have to just do that. You just have to jump in and see, because yeah, people who are really good with painted canvases, and that's a pretty elite group in my opinion, who can really take one of those things and bring it to life. I mean, that is a lot of knowledge of threads and texture and different stitches, and making that all come together to put life into a canvas. I mean, the people who do those well are unbelievable in terms of what they full understanding of all components.
right. And I think and I understand. I have several friends, and that's what they do. They love doing painted canvas. And I asked them. I said, "So you guys are experienced stitchers. Do you pick a canvas and do your own stitch guide?" And they're like, "No." And I was very surprised because they're both very experienced and
Wait,
good
no
stitchers.
meaning that
No,
they don't do a stitch guide, or they just dig in and
they don't.
go.
No, they buy a stitch guide. Sorry,
Oh,
they
okay.
buy a stitch guide every time they get a big canvas.
Mm-hmm.
They don't choose their own stitches. Now they might change something that they say, "Oh, I didn't like that stitch, so I'm doing something else." They're confident enough to do that. And that kind of made me nervous because I thought, well, here they are. They've done tons of these canvases and they won't make their own stitch guide up.
Right.
But maybe it's just their personalities. Maybe they
Yeah.
don't want to make a mistake. I don't know.
Well, but see, okay, so that gets into that area, because if you have a stitch guide, that's no different in my mind, other than technique. That's no different than doing an embroidery one and following the directions, or a cross stitch one and following the directions. To me, that's no different.
Right.
It's when you take a blank canvas and you sit down and in that technique of setting the canvas out so you see it for over several days and make some notes. People have suggested that as a good way to identify what you want to do with it. To me, that's where the really highly skilled people come in, is they take a canvas and then they figure out the stitches and the threads that they're going to use to interpret it their way, not to just simply follow someone else's stitch guide. Because to me, that's really no different than most of these other things.
Right.
Because that's someone else's interpretation, unless you modify it. Because some people, I'm sure, use a stitch guide as a starting point. Okay, here's where I could start, but I don't want to do this. I'll do this, and you change things, but at least the stitch guide gives you a starting point and a fallback.
Right.
But to me, the real pinnacle, and I don't know if that's a good word, but the real pinnacle is the people who can take a stitch guide or take a canvas, lay it on the table, and bring out a bunch of threads and figure it out themselves, and then make it sing.
Right. And I think that's an art. I think it's,
Yes.
I mean, I've seen some very well done pieces, but you're right. The ones that really are like, wow, that is amazing. It's very few, and they've used a stitch guide from somebody, one of those elite people that beautiful. They've done beautiful job, and I guess that's where my fear factor comes in. It's like, well, is this going to look like it was done by a kindergartner
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
I'm done? And I think I just need to decide, am I going to just work on it? Again, I have all the supplies. They're just sitting there. It's not like I'm going to go have to purchase anything else.
Yeah.
And it gives me the opportunity to be creative, which is, I feel is kind of missing right now. I don't mind. I like doing cross stitch and I like doing counted canvas pieces. I find them enjoyable. I find them relaxing, but I have this need that something in me that's creative isn't being fulfilled.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that taking the canvas and saying, okay, I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna stitch something. If it doesn't work, I'll rip it out.
Yep.
I'm hoping that'll kind of fill that kind of itch I have right now that isn't being filled in any other way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and nobody ever said you had to show anything.
Right.
You don't have to take pictures and put them on Instagram. There's no rule that says you have to. So,
Right.
you can sit there with your jumbo crayons and do a kindergartner thing all day long, and nobody will ever be the wiser. But I mean, to me, there's approaches. Like, you could get a piece that has a stitch guide, and like I described, use that as your base, and then use your creativity to vary from that, knowing that you always have a home base, safe place with any area in the thing.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I frankly, I think you have enough skill, creativity, and knowledge to just dig in and just make up your own and see what happens.
And yeah,
Worst you can do is hate it, right?
Right. And then it just end up back in the basement again.
Right. Yeah, it's no worse than it is right now, right?
Right. Right. And then hopefully I'll learn some new skills or
Yeah.
discover. Maybe the only scary part is if I discover I like it better than all the other crafts I'm doing now, and then another part of the hobby I need to further expand.
Yeah.
That would be bad news.
Yeah. No, I fear. Yeah, I can understand the fear and see that. Yeah, I think that's one of the things with painted canvases is the investment you have to make in the canvas.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you're doing a counted piece or a cross stitch piece, your investment in the linen or the canvas is really rather trivial in relative terms. So if it becomes a wreck and you throw it away, it doesn't, okay, fine, I learned something. But with a painted canvas, oh man, if you laid out a couple $100 for a painted canvas, to just get sick of it and throw it away is ouch.
Right. And I said, because I was looking at a new canvas. I was thinking about making something from one of my sisters. And so I looked at the price of it, and then there's a stitch guide, and I said, okay, so what would threads cost me? I didn't want to ask the shop owner. I asked my friend, and she goes, at least the cost of the canvas.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's a huge outlay of cash.
Right.
For if you're buying the whole packet. Now, I'll have to say, if that's something you really like or something you really want to do, I think the hours of enjoyment you get out of it would be phenomenal. You know, there's something to be said for that. And you'd have something beautiful at the end. But it just kind of stopped me from going further on that. And I said, I ought to just work on one of the ones I have.
Yeah. And
I've done it.
Yeah. That's the kind of the gauge that I use is take the canvas cost and then double it and add maybe 10%. And that's your total cost just to get started. And most times, it's pretty close. Yeah.
Right. And, I think I'm just going to have to jump in. And actually, I like posting these sort of things if I make mistakes or if it's not perfect, because I feel like there's times when everybody does everything, this perfectionist, everything's beautiful, and I'm like, you know what? Sometimes it doesn't turn out.
Yes.
But I did it and I learned something, and so there you go. Everybody's free to make mistakes. It's not.
Yeah.
I get tired if everything's just perfect. They never have to rip out, and I'm like, let's talk reality.
Yeah. We need to see more train wrecks. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We really do. I think it's a good point. Because I think it's intimidating to people who are new to the hobby or who are looking to do try a new technique. Is they see what people do and go, holy smokes, that's just way over my head. No, it's not. Tonight, Dima Santina, you look at her stuff and go, oh, wow. I mean, it's just jaw-dropping work, but she's done a ton of it. And I'm sure there's a whole parade of train wrecks behind all of that. Thrown away canvases, ruined gold threads. I'm sure there's just a whole boatload of that stuff to get to the point where she's at now. And you want to show off your best and brightest, but there's probably a lot of validity in here's my train wreck of the day.
Right. And people who are beginners, maybe their stitches aren't exactly perfect or whatever. I always applaud them. If they're just starting out, it's great to see post their work and see what they're doing and trying it. And if you don't get encouragement, you're going to be like, well, maybe I shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
But everybody makes mistakes, and we learn from our mistakes. But yeah.
All right. Well, I look at it. Okay, you've got painted canvases that you've owned for a while. They're doing nothing but collecting dust.
Right.
At some point, to me, it's like a retail store. Okay, I have some inventory that's been sitting around forever. It's now costing me money because it's taking up retail space I could be using for something new that would sell. So let's do a clearance sale. Do a clearance sale with your stitching. Let's get that thing out. And if it's a wreck, it's a wreck. What are you out? It's been sitting around for, however long. So what? Right.
And I'm learning something.
Yes.
And feeding that creativity.
Yes.
And so, it would be, I might have to just go and find the staple. Well, I don't know. Do I have any more tacks? I might have to finish a project so I have enough tacks to tack it up.
Yep.
I'll have to see. Have to go look.
Well, I'm just a few miles from Megan's store here in St. Louis now. So, and I do owe you a tour of the threads at Megan's store.
Oh, yes.
So we'll, because that was probably the worst day that I was going to be touring for you. So I owe you that tour, so I can help you spend some money. So get a canvas out, figure what you want, and then I'll head on over and we'll get some stuff.
All right. Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah. We can do that. We can do that. I actually.
And isn't she going to buy you a croissant?
She's going to buy a croissant from across the street. Yes, and I'm holding her to that too. Mm-hmm. Yep. But I want to go when I feel human enough that I can actually enjoy the croissant.
Yes.
And let me just say, and you know this firsthand, if the croissants are anything like you get in Europe, that's trouble.
Oh, yeah. Then you have to go when the croissant store is closed to the shop.
That's right. That's right. Mm-hmm. Because
that would be bad.
Yeah, the croissants we get here in America, no. I don't know what they do over there, but what we get here is nothing. Mm-mm.
No. Mm-mm.
So we'll see how that plays out. But I owe you that trip, so I can, and I'm happy to help you spend your money. Trust me.
Thanks.
I'm here for
I know.
You. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely here for you. That's right.
Always helpful. Thanks.
Yep. Okay. Well, let's see. Well, that's interesting. Now, see, you get me intrigued because I have some painted canvases here too in the old stash that is slowly getting unpacked. All right. Let me see as I get them out of the box, just what I have here, and because I need to start another project.
I know you don't have enough started.
No, so that would be one more. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, we'll play along here.
See, if you find it, you could just tack it up and then just have it there to look at on your wall for a while you work on another project.
Yes.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Speaking of unpacking, I got my studio set up. Okay. Our daughter came over because I was really too weak to do most of the work. So she came over. We have sound panels, and this is the first recording now in the new studio setup. So we have sound panels on the walls to kill the echo, and I think it's working effectively. You're not hearing anything.
No echo.
Yep. And got a TV hung in the room, so that's good. and a big old rug on the floor because it's a hardwood floor, so big old rug on the floor. And then my desk and my stitching table. And then Kim Young at the Sassy Jacks suggested, and boy, she was spot on, you can get at Home Depot, Husky is the brand. They make these tables that are, you can have them on just stationary or you can have them on casters. Wood top tables, workbench tables. And I think they come in 4, 5, and 6 feet. Heavy duty. I mean, they're serious tables. Like, they'll last you forever. And so I got the 7-foot table and put it on casters so that it could be wheeled around. And it's adjustable height. So I can adjust it to the exact height of my my stitching table and have a great big L full of workspace. And just unpacking already, that's been valuable. And then it's on wheels, so then I can just wheel it out of the way and keep the center of the room open. So,
I like the fact that what sounds interesting to me, intriguing, is that it's adjustable in height, because
yes.
I'm short. So, like, I was cutting fabric the other day, and I have it on a card table, and I have to bend. And I thought, if this was just a little bit taller, it would be so much easier for me.
Bingo. That's
my fear is, though, you said it was a workbench table, and once my husband saw it, he'd be like, "Oh, that's nice. I could put this," and it would no longer work for me if he, glued something on it or something.
Right. Yeah, you have to set some boundaries in the household about who can have what and do what.
Right.
But
right.
Yeah, it's beautiful butcher block wood top, and yes, the height. I agree with you because you're short, I'm short. And yeah, and that was one of the things that I wanted to have, was a big clean work surface. And that's one of my lessons to me, is keep this is not going to become a collect-all spot. This table is going to stay clean. Because yeah, when you get a yard of linen out and you need a big space to cut on, and then if you can adjust that height so it's comfortable for you, makes huge difference.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that's and that's the thing. I'm that I'm gonna keep it. It has to stay clean. It cannot be a pile things on table.
Okay. So once you get it cleared, we want a photo, and then we'll ask you in 6 months.
I know. Yeah. Because
I just think of Mary Corbett.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Mary Corbett. Yeah, every 6 months, there she is, cleaning up the tables. Yep. Yep. Exactly.
Oh.
I was just going to say that. Yep. She just did it just the other day. Yep. I'm cleaning up and organizing. Yeah. But, so that's got to be. So, but right now it's covered from stuff, because I made a mistake. Because when I first packed my stitching corner, I was really good about what I packed. And then when it looked like we were going to be in the house for a long time, then I set up a studio in what had become an empty bedroom. And then the second time when we actually were going to move, then I just threw stuff in a box, and I'd forgotten I did that. And when I opened that first box, it was like, oh no. So now I got to sort through. Oh.
See, that's something I would do. I'd be like, I'll deal with it when I unpack.
Yep.
It would all be in there. And like, why did I do that?
Yeah. That's what I'm doing now. I'm dealing with it when I unpack. Yep. So, so that's all working out. And then I have a full closet, and that's where I got to figure out the storage there. And I got to figure out some bookshelves, and they're going to go in the closet. I'm working really hard to have a room that the center is wide open, that there's not a lot of clutter. And so it's, that's kind of my mental goal is I want an open space in the middle so I can wheel that table in and do what I want, or I can have my stand set up and stitch and not feel cramped. Because that was with my setup back in Illinois, where I had my stand. There was plenty of room, but I kind of had to, with the longer stand, when I had like big samplers, I kind of had to turn sideways to get out, out of the cockpit. And so this way I won't have to do that. So I'm really focusing on that and trying to get things stored so that they're easily found. And who was it that organizer lady? That's another thing I'm keeping in mind is stuff you use all the time is within arm's reach, and then stuff you use not so much all the time is further out, and so on. So I'm practicing that too. I'll get there. But I got to get, and now, see, we talked about this. Now I'm at the point where I want stuff unpacked because I want to start stitching again.
Right. I was wondering when you're going to hit that point.
I have hit that spot. I have hit that spot to the point where last night I almost just set up a stand and started stitching. And I said, no, because then that's going to be in the way. Right. And then the other stuff won't get unpacked. No, I have to discipline myself to get the stuff unpacked, put away, and then. But I'm at that point. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fingers itching to stitch. I don't know how you lasted so long. I would have had something in a hoop or something. You had that little fanny frame thing. I would have had something to stitch. Well, because I don't think I would have lasted so long.
Yeah. Packing a house. That'll do it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Packing a house and putting together magazines. Yeah, that took care of the time. So, but now I'm at the point where, I almost did last night. Skip this. I'm putting a movie on the TV, and I'm going to just do some stitching. But I didn't. I hung in there. So.
All right. I
got it. Yeah, because it'll be. I mean, if I don't, the boxes will sit there for and the days will go by, and no, I got to get them unpacked. No.
Right.
Got to get put away. So So it's working out really well. Yeah, and the best part, we're in a townhouse that has a full basement and then 2 levels. Well, the upper level is a full bath and 2 bedrooms. So that's our 2 offices, are the 2 bedrooms. So everything that has to do with work and with stitching is all on the upper level. So in terms of day-to-day life, it's up and out of the way. And like I've said before, no matter what I'm doing in my stitching area, I can just close the door. And so it'll all be contained in one spot, up and out of the way, and that to me that's a big plus. So
yes, definitely. So I got to ask you, in your closet, have you just? So I know you're going to put some sort of shelves in for your books. Now, are you putting your projects in there in boxes, or do you know yet? Things if you started or.
No, well, that's good. That's good because I have a 4-drawer chest that most of the framed pieces will fit in. So that I think is going to hold my projects.
Okay.
The ones that are too big to fit in those drawers will go in the closet in some way. But I wanted to have the projects that I'm in the middle of or that got shoved aside. I wanted them somewhere where they're out of the way, out of the light, out of the dust. They're all covered in plastic bags, but I just wanted them out of the light. I'm always focused on daylight getting on threads and fading them. So, I think that's going to be the primary storage for that, and then the bigger ones will have to go in the closet somehow. But I'm really focused on. I just don't want a bunch of stuff sitting around because that's what I had the last time, and I think that's detrimental. So, in the closet, I don't know how the closet's going to go. There's definitely got to be bookshelves in there. And then how the rest of it's going to go, I'm just not sure. That's the great unknown. Right now it's boxes, but that's the great unknown. Because I'd like to have some quick access to charts, because I have 2 or 3 boxes of charts. And I'd like to have those some kind of a quick access. So I haven't reached a conclusion on that yet. I don't know.
Yeah. And I know we just had a little sale at my guild of a member who passed, and she had her charts in those old metal magazine sleeves.
Mm-hmm.
But then of course they overflowed into another like plastic tub.
Yeah.
Which I think that's what I did. That's how mine are. Mine are in a plastic tub, grouped together. So all of maybe one designer, or I have a bunch of things. My son used to keep bees, so people gave me things about bees, and I have a bunch of bee charts.
Mm-hmm.
So those are all together, and that makes it. So that's why I know if I need something, I can go in, and it's easy to find those things.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of grouped but they're in a big storage tub that's clear plastic. That's the only other thing, clear plastic.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get into it.
Okay, see, that's interesting, because I took plastic containers for like files, like if you were going to keep your old tax returns.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 2 or 3 of those full of charts. And they're not clear, so you can't see through them.
Right.
Which would be the definition of not clear, wouldn't it? That you can't see through. Yeah. So that's a problem. And so I'm not sure how to store them so that they're accessible.
Couldn't you just the other thing, I for a while had mine in a metal filing cabinet, and they were grouped.
Mm-hmm.
This was when I was really mainly doing cross stitch. I had more of them. They were grouped, like I had some cross stitch magazines, or they were grouped by topic somehow. And then I think I labeled the drawers, so that way when you open the drawers, you knew which set you were looking at.
Okay. Yeah.
You have to remember.
Yeah.
So maybe if you did those, because I know those boxes, they're not huge, are they?
No. I mean, they have a handle. You pick them up and carry them wherever you want. Yeah.
Right. So if you labeled those with one of those lovely little labelers,
mm-hmm.
that might work. Because then you'd know, well, like, these are all my sampler patterns, or whatever. These are all my dog patterns. I don't know what you collect.
Whatever it is I collect, yeah.
Yeah, it's whatever you collect, yeah, that might work. Labeling them is the one thing that has saved me more times than not with my threads. My daughter one time organized my threads for me, and we labeled them according to like they were cry neck or pearl cotton.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of looking through all the boxes because they weren't clear.
Right. Yeah, and that's a good point too, because that's another thing. I got to get a system for storing the threads. And of course, there's a million different ways to do it. People suggest them, but I got to settle on something so that future threads will have a place to go rather than a pile that I'm going to deal with later.
Right.
Yeah. I really am. I have a real opportunity here that you don't get, like you might get once in a lifetime, to have a completely empty room and to do it exactly how you want without any encumbrances. And I'm determined to get it right. And take my time and get it right so that it's a functioning room long term, rather than something that a year from now I'm going, oh, this isn't working at all. I got to redo everything. So yeah, because you just don't get that chance very often. And
no, and when my husband worked, one of the things they used to do is like organize. They did a big organization thing, and so they would literally pull everything out of a room and then put it back in. And I've thought about doing that with my craft room, just hauling everything out and then starting again. But just the thought of it is just overwhelming. But that's what really needs to be done. I mean, if you really want to do a good job on something like that, that's really, really, start again. But you had that opportunity because you moved and you didn't have a choice.
Right, exactly. Well, that's just it. Yeah, all the things that you have to haul out, they're all sitting in boxes out in the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to haul them out; they're already out, and so that's why I'm being a real strict gatekeeper as I bring things in, so so I don't make that mistake. Yes, because I want it to work. So it's fun. Yeah.
Right. And I'll be really curious to see how you organize your threads, because I tried changing mine middle of this year, and then I've already decided I don't like it, so I've got to go back to the original system because organizing by thread types.
Yeah.
And then I just don't. It was like, oh, this is a disaster. I hate this.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not gonna start again.
Yeah. Well, in the two ammunition. Well, there are two toolboxes that I got from a friend a long time ago. Two heavy-duty metal toolboxes that they were using in a gun room to store ammunition, but they're really toolbox things. And that's how I have the threads in there now, loosely, is by type. And it seems to me that's the best way, if you're going to have a lot of types, that's the best way rather than color.
Right.
Because invariably, to my mind, if I'm looking for a pearl cotton, I don't want to have to look through 15 different boxes of colors that would have pearl cotton and floss and Krynic in them, for example. I just want to go look at pearl cottons.
Right.
Or if I'm looking for some Krynic, I just want to look at Krynic spools. I don't want them mixed in with floss.
Right. And that's what I did. I temporarily pulled, I think, all my blues out because I had a whole bunch of them because I thought, I don't have any. And then I realized, I have a lot more than I thought. But now I'm like, this is a mess. It makes me nervous to even look in that box. I'm like, okay, this has all got to go back into where all the blues are together. I mean, where all the Krynics are together, all the pearl cottons, because this is not working. And I thought it would work better because I like doing some surface work, and I'm not so much always looking for a thread type as I am looking for a color. But I just don't like it. It just doesn't work.
But even in deciding the color, is your first decision almost always has to be, well, what thread type am I going to use?
Right.
Because color really doesn't matter if you haven't decided what thread type.
Right. And I think that was part of the problem is some of my what I would call more specialty threads that you would use for that type of work were in with my over-dyed threads because they tend to be more over-dyed. And I'm thinking, okay, that's what I needed to do. I needed to separate those into two different containers, and that would have probably been a better choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of jealous that you have this empty space that you get to slowly refill and put. I wouldn't want to go through the move to do it, but
Yeah, there's a price to pay, but I'm really excited about it because, like I said, you don't get this opportunity very often. But by the same token, I'm really disciplining myself. Do this in an orderly fashion, so when it's all done, there aren't any regrets. Right. There aren't any do-overs, and so yeah, I'm hanging in there. But I was getting stuff out of the closet this morning, and there's all the stitch stands laying up there on the shelves. Like, all right, I got to get one of these out. We got to get going on something here. But I don't have that much. Actually, I got more than I care to admit, but I don't have that many hours of concentrated work before I think I'll have things at least in and organized enough that I can feel comfortable stitching. So,
okay.
I think I do that. I'll get that to a point because it'll just be so much nicer to use this room and actually sit here and stitch and
with your TV going.
I know.
And your own little space.
I know.
Mark is not going to know where to find it. Should be like, where is he? Oh yeah, he's up in his man cave upstairs.
Yeah, and I ain't coming back. I'm not leaving.
Did you decide to get a refrigerator, a little mini bar?
We have not made that decision yet. There is room. There's a little corner over here where it could fit. Yeah.
Right.
No, I think at some point there has to be some movement throughout the house. So I better make myself go down to the kitchen. Yeah.
Right. I was just going to suggest that that's a good thing to be able to get a little movement in.
Yeah. Just every now and then. Yep.
Not too often though.
No. But it's so weird with these acoustical panels in here. It's so quiet, and there's a lot to be said for that too. It's like you're just cut off from the world. So, I'll take it. All right, that's going to be enough, I think.
All right.
Tonight, Dima Santina, join us at 8 o'clock on the YouTube channel, and we'll gawk at Dima's work. And then Michelle May will be on Sunday, and we'll be back to our regular schedule now. I have no plans to break from it for a while. Thanks for listening.
All right, bye.